What if the people you're negotiating with think you don't understand them? I walked into that deal thinking it was just another routine contract renewal. My father owns a well-established sales company, and he's always believed I should start from the bottom before I ever earn the right to take over, so I can truly understand how the business works from the ground up. That's why, in my first week, he assigned me to handle 2 smaller clients. They had emailed earlier, practically begging for a contract renewal. When they walked into my office, I was actually optimistic. I even planned to give them a fair deal, and maybe even surprise them by speaking their language. I'm fluent in Spanish, but they didn't know that. That's when everything shifted. The moment I greeted them, I caught it instantly. One leaned toward the other and muttered in Spanish, laughing under his breath. I understood every word. They were calling me stupid. Easy target. Someone they could take advantage of without effort. Then came the handshake. One of them smiled and said something fake in Spanish, pretending it was a normal greeting, while the other backed him up with lies. I said nothing. I simply let it continue. But within the first minute of the meeting, they asked if they could occasionally speak privately in Spanish. That was my first real confirmation of what this was going to become. From that moment on, every few minutes they switched languages just to insult me. They mocked my intelligence, my background, and even laughed about how I had no idea what they were saying. They acted confident, as if I was completely blind to it all. Then it escalated. My wife came by the office to drop off lunch, leaving it outside because of the glass window. The moment they saw her, their tone changed in Spanish again, this time crossing a line that made my stomach tighten. They spoke about her in a way no one should ever speak about someone they don't even know. Still, I stayed calm. I kept smiling. I kept listening. And I let them believe I was still clueless. But behind that calm, I was recording everything. As the negotiation continued, their confidence grew worse. They even started discussing how they had manipulated past deals, mentioning fake stories like illnesses just to get better contracts. That was when I quietly placed my phone under the table and started recording. And I'm glad I did, because a few minutes later, 2 young girls from a nearby office walked in to deliver a package. They were around 13 and 15 years old. And without hesitation, the men began making inappropriate comments about them in Spanish, laughing like it was nothing. That moment changed everything. I didn't react. But inside, I knew exactly what I had. When they finished, they looked at me and asked if I was okay. I lied and said I just wasn't feeling well. They believed it, or at least they thought they did. The meeting continued for about 20 more minutes. By the end, I had verbally agreed to a deal that heavily favored them and would have hurt my company badly. That's when I stood up. We were about to shake hands when I suddenly stopped. They looked confused. I scratched my head, looked both of them directly in the eye, and spoke in perfect Spanish. I told them there was something they said earlier that I couldn't ignore. The shift was instant. Their confidence collapsed. Their smiles disappeared. Panic took over as they realized I understood every single word they had been saying. They tried to defend themselves immediately, claiming it was all jokes, but I wasn't interested anymore. I told them the contract would not be renewed, and they had 60 seconds to leave before I made everything public. Then I played the recording. The room froze. Their faces drained as they heard their own voices repeated back to them. They started begging, switching from arrogance to desperation in seconds. I let the silence sit for a moment. Then I gave them one condition: shut the company down. They tried to argue, but once I replayed the worst part of the recording, they broke completely. They agreed. They left that office humiliated. And yes, I still forwarded the recording to the police afterward. My father and his network made sure that audio reached every important connection they had. And that was the end of their business everywhere they tried to go.